could the addition of Nate Davis, could the continued development and continued, just improvement overall of a guy like Cody Whitehair, the continued improvement and the necessary improvement of a guy like Tevin Jenkins, and the necessary production that you need out of a guy like Darnell Wright, could it eventually catapult him into that discussion of, hey, this may be maybe the most improved team in the NFL next year? Sure, it could happen. Sure, it could, but the work's still not done. Yeah, I'm happy, man. I'm happy that Darnell Wright can just get his career started there and lock down that right side and get this train moving down the track. So, look, they had a lot of good draft picks. I'm sure the fan base there in Illinois is pretty happy about a lot of the work that Ryan Poles did.
Lewis, is he best suited to be your anchor on the right side, or do they flip him to the left?
No, I would leave him there, Tommy. I would leave him there. He switched from left tackle to right tackle at Tennessee this season. He looked totally different. He looked like a monster on the right side. I wouldn't mess with that. I would leave that be and let him go ahead and become an all-pro, which is exactly what you expect out of guys who are 10th overall. And I wouldn't mess with it. Something clicked for him this year. I'm sure it wasn't just a position switch. There's a lot that goes into guys just finally finding their comfort zone. Well, he sure did seem to find his. And with the way guys are moved around nowadays, I understand that the left side is Justin's blind side. But with the way they walk the best pass rushers over to the defensive left, offensive right anyway, like it didn't look like during his career, Von Miller didn't have any problem putting quarterbacks on their back. Plenty of right-handed quarterbacks who saw him coming and still couldn't do anything about it. I think they need to just go ahead and leave Darnell right there.
So like you were alluding to at the end there, Lewis, that when you, like I've had some of my friends say, well, he's a right tackle. He's not a left tackle. And at 10, do you grab a right tackle? Were they better off maybe grabbing Jalen Carter and not trading down there? How did you see that? Okay, go ahead.
No, the left tackle, right tackle argument right now is outdated. It's old. It's not really relevant. Do you think Philadelphia right now would say that, Lane Johnson isn't as valuable because he plays right tackle? No, you wouldn't say that at all. And I think if you looked at that on that football team, as good as Jordan Mailata is, I don't think anybody would say that Jordan Mailata is in the same category as Lane Johnson, who could, arguably become a Hall of Famer. It's a very important position. It's not like this isn't 1978 anymore. All the best pass rushers don't just rush from the right side. Like I just said, Von Miller killed people from the left side his entire career in Denver, his career in L.A., his career in Buffalo before he got hurt. And, I mean, it's Max Crosby is terrorizing the league right now as a left defensive end, going up against right tackles. And just because it's on the quarterback's open side or his throwing arm side, it doesn't seem to be slowing these guys down as far as putting guys on their back and creating strip sacks and turnovers and forced fumbles. It's an integral part of the overall offensive schematic, and you better have that position locked down. I would not mess with this kid. I would leave him right there. It's very important for Justin to be protected on both sides. As a matter of fact, was it in the preseason against Buffalo
2 years ago, I think, wasn't it?
Justin got blasted off of his right side.
Correct.
Where it was almost like one of those shots that puts you out for a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Yeah. So don't tell me that side isn't important.
That's great memory right there.
Yeah.
For someone if you don't follow the Bears on an everyday basis,
Lewis
to have that
does,
kind
though.
of recall is pretty special.
And that's why we love Lewis.
That's great.
Lewis, so the decision to go with Wright over Jalen Carter, how did you see that?
Look, I get the concerns that people have with Jalen as far as what exactly does he need in order to, maximize that vast potential. And when I say by what exactly does he need, I think he went to the kind of place in Philadelphia that has exactly what he needs. It's a team that has a lot of strong veteran presence on the defensive side, in particular in the defensive room, and even more specific at the defensive tackle position. Who do you think he's going to follow around there? he's going to follow Fletcher Cox around. Fletcher Cox is, probably in the last year of his career. Brandon Graham is on that defensive line too. These guys, Fletcher's 34, I believe Brandon's 36. Fletcher's a multiple-time Pro Bowler. Brandon Graham has been a stalwart there for years. These guys will get him right. They will get him thinking, acting, conducting himself like a pro. He won't be the alpha there. He won't be the lead dog there. He'll be one of those guys who will follow the veterans that have already forged a very productive path long before he came into the league. In Chicago, who do they have that's going to show him that way? Who do they have that he can follow like that? Who do they have that when he would be the lead dog there in Chicago. And that's not to say that they're a football team that's devoid of leadership, but they don't have the same resume. They don't have the same cachet. They just don't. And look, and Ryan is in the infant stages of trying to build out this program. They're just trying to get it off the ground. Now, would you like to have a player as talented as Jalen Carter to help get it off the ground? Yeah. I would also just like to have more of a structure in place in terms of how my roster composition was looking to go ahead and take him on. So it's a risk management issue. It's a comfort issue, and I don't blame him or blame them as an organization for opting to go ahead and say, hey, look, you know what? If we miss on him and he winds up going to Philadelphia and he winds up having a great career, good for him. You tip your cap to him. And on top of it, he has a bunch of his boys, from Georgia that are going to be on the same roster as him. When you're talking about Jordan Davis and Jacoby Dean and now Keely Ringo and Nolan Smith, and DeAndre Swift is there. He has a bunch of guys that he's familiar with that he's going to be in a real nice spot for him. And honestly, I wouldn't even compare whatever he does in Philadelphia on the upside. I wouldn't compare it to Chicago because they're in two totally different situations. It's two totally different programs. Now, I know fans aren't going to care about that. They're going to be like, look, if he goes and he becomes an all-pro, then that means he could have been an all-pro for us, and that means Ryan Poles messed it up. But no, it doesn't mean that. That's not how it works. Players just aren't, haphazardly interchangeable, and their circumstances don't matter. It does matter. That was a good place for him. Chicago is a great place for Darnell Wright. And also, just know this, too. If we want to just compare Philly to Chicago, like we just said, Philadelphia has the best offensive line in football. There's a reason why this team was in the Super Bowl and was a couple plays away from winning. There's a reason why their quarterback was maybe a couple throws away from winning the Super Bowl MVP and maybe a game or two away from winning the MVP of the league. So I would follow that. I would focus on that because there are some similarities as far as what Chicago needs in order to make sure that their young future franchise quarterback can take the same kind of leap in terms of his progression that Jalen Hurts did. And I would just focus on that and be happy. But look, Darnell is obviously the focal point of this draft class. There's a lot of other damn good players that they got out of this draft class.
Lewis,
that I would be much more so interested in talking about, how they're going to do than Darnell Wright. I'm not worried about Darnell Wright in the least.
Lewis, the battle cry from all of us the last, several months has been you got to get more talent around Justin, both in front of him and out on the flanks for him. Well, over the course of free agency and actually during the year, too, with the trade from Claypool, you've added DJ Moore, Chase Claypool. You drafted Tyler Scott, wide receiver from Cincinnati in the 4th round. Mm-hmm. You added running backs Foreman and Rashawn Johnson, who was a 4th-round pick out of Texas. Robert Tonyan was signed. Nate Davis at right guard, Darnell Wright at right tackle. Have they done enough to help Justin? And now have you eliminated any potential excuses for the evaluation process at the end of this year for knowing whether or not he is your guy going forward?
I think you have upgraded the roster on this side of the ball dramatically. There's no question about it. Is it the situation where you're just kind of like, if you're Ryan Poles, you're kind of like just wiping your hands together and going, well, I've done what I need to do. Right. Anything else that happens from here has nothing to do with me. No.
They're not the Eagles. I get that.
No,
yes.
No. So there's still work that can be done. Okay? There's still work that can be done. As much as they have tried to improve this wide receiver core in Chicago, we still wouldn't. We're not going to say that it's on the level of what Philadelphia's is. We're still not going to say that, and we're still not going to say that this offensive line is on the level of Philadelphia's either. Now, could it be? Could the addition of Nate Davis? Could the continued development and continued, just improvement overall of a guy like Cody Whitehair, the continued improvement and the necessary improvement of a guy like Tevin Jenkins, and the necessary production that you need out of a guy like Darnell Wright, could it eventually catapult him into that discussion of, hey, this may be the most improved team in the NFL next year? Sure, it could happen. Sure, it could, but the work's still not done. This team will look much different on the offensive side, obviously, than last year. It doesn't take me to say that. DJ Moore is a freaking huge addition. Chase Claypool is a huge question. Wonderful athlete. Dude, does anybody know what Chase Claypool is going to bring to the table next year?
Nope.
No, because if you did, Pittsburgh, he'd still be in Pittsburgh. That's just a fact. They said, you know what, enough. We're going to move on. So he needs to prove it. He definitely needs to prove it. Tyler Scott, he's a rookie. Could he be a nice addition? Of course he could. Well, let's see. Prove it. Velus Jones, what do you got? What do you got in year 2? What are you going to bring to the table? Let's see. You know what Deontay Foreman can do in this league. You know what Khalil Herbert can do in this league. Rashawn Johnson's a freaking stud. An absolute stud. At any other school, any other P5 school that doesn't have, Bijan Robinson sitting there in front of you, this guy is a major contributor and a major factor at any Power 5 school. I love that too. Cole Kmet, time to take another jump. Robert Tonyan, hey, let's just stay healthy. We know what he has done. You saw him twice a year. So there's a lot of improvement here. And now it's going to be up to Luke Getsy to get it all clicking and rolling the right way. And there's a lot of new pieces. That's a lot of moving parts. But that's the NFL. So I guess really to answer your question, you will be able to make a much fairer evaluation as to just how good is Justin Fields and how good can he be as we continue to build out this team, much more so than obviously you could last year. But no, it's not a finished product. You can't just wipe your hands and say, if Justin succeeds, it's because of what we did. And if Justin fails, it's on him because we did enough. No, you can't say that yet.
Louis Riddick joining us. It's Waddle and Silvy on ESPN 1000. All right, so you just raved about Roschon Johnson. That's great to hear. Who else did you love? You mentioned right before that answer that other than Darnell Wright, there are many other people that you could speak to in this class. Who did you like in this class? And is there someone in this class that you kind of you said, I wonder a little bit about why he picked this guy?
Sure, absolutely. Look, I really like Tyreek Stevenson out of Miami. This guy is in my estimation, knowing what I know about Matt Eberflus, he is a Matt Eberflus type of guy. This guy will absolutely knock your teeth out. He is a thumper as a corner. He does not back down at all. Super aggressive, plays strong, good tackler, strong at the catch point. All of those things, all the kind of things. He reminds me. To me, he fits the prototype of a. Let's just say if you're going to play a single high type of zone scheme, split safety zone scheme, whether it be cover 2, cover 4, that's what he's made to do. That's what he's built for. A guy who's going to play strong on the edges, strong on the perimeter as far as playing cover 2, playing, a press jam technique, and then, sink and reading 2-to-1, all these things that I love to talk about, but we don't need to get into here. He fits what they do. Noah Sewell, the linebacker out of Oregon, I'll tell you, maybe in this draft of all the stack backers, off-ball linebackers, probably had the strongest punch as far as taking on linemen, playing downhill, and getting off blocks of it as any linebacker in this draft. He is an absolute freaking hammer, a hammer. That seems to be like the kind of guy who, if you're looking at being a true first and second down player at the very least, he's going to bring that kind of mentality and that kind of playing style, which I'm sure Matt will love. And he's going to run to the football. He's going to play the game the right way. He's going to commit to the game the right way. He has great bloodlines. We all know his brother's up there in Detroit. And Noah was a former 5-star recruit at one time that was considered to be a freaking stud. So he's going to be just fine. The guys who I want to see actually turn it up and raise their level of consistency as far as the way they play the game in terms of effort are easily the two D linemen, Javon Dexter and Zach Pickens. They flash it, but for me, it wasn't nearly consistent enough. It just wasn't consistent enough, in particular with Dexter. He has got to be a guy who gets off the ball faster, got to be a guy who can get that what defensive line coaches call knockback, resetting the line of scrimmage, playing 1 yard on the offensive side of the ball. He has got to get off the ball faster. He's got to keep his pads down. He's a big son of a gun now. And Zach Pickens has that kind of explosive quality too. And I know this from talking to Matt Eberflus and hearing from other people about how he coaches and what he's going to demand along with Alan Williams. They're going to get after those guys. They're going to get into those guys pretty damn good and make sure that they play the game the way they expect it to be played as far as getting off the ball and running your rear end to the football all the time. And if you're tired, get off the field, get somebody else in there until you can get back on the field, and then I want you to give it all to me on this field again. That's what I didn't see from those two. If they can get it from them, oh boy, you got something. You really got something with this entire draft class. But those are the two I'm going to be keeping my eye on the most.
Lewis, could they be the beneficiaries of a different scheme with the Bears as well versus what they were asked to do at their college level?
Oh, sure. Look, and you know what? How they're going to be asked to play here may suit them. You know who was like that, okay, is when Leonard Williams came out of USC and when he went to the Jets, and probably even more so now. So Leonard, at college, I used to think, man, God, he sits back in that 4-point stance a lot. They don't really let him get off the ball. Like, I wonder how much different he'll look maybe when he gets to the pros and someone gets him up on his toes a little bit and puts more weight on that front hand and says, look, when that thing moves, you go. You absolutely go. You just tear up everything in front of you. We'll figure the rest out, but you got to get off the rock. Kind of like the way San Francisco coaches their D-line. Chris Kasarik, who's their D-line coach out there, if you've ever watched him coach their D-line in a training camp practice, I've never heard more screaming. I've never heard more yelling. I've never heard more of an emphasis of stop thinking and just move when that ball moves. Because if you're playing on their side of the line of scrimmage, everything gets screwed up for them. Everything. That's an old Jim Washburn philosophy, the old defensive line coach from Detroit, who Chris learned under. Yeah, these two guys, I'm sure the emphasis from day one of rookie minicamp is going to be, we need y'all to move when that ball moves and tear up everything inside out on the offensive line that is in an opposite color. Just absolutely tear it apart because they didn't do that consistently in college. And if they can do it at this level with the size that they bring to the table, it will change the entire dynamic of this defense overall.
Lewis, now after all the prep and all the great work that you did for the draft, do you get away or anything like that?
Dude, I just did TV today. Are you kidding me?
Well, you got
back to work.
But I mean, you got to get away. You got to get to an island or something.
It's coming. Yes, I'm gonna. I'll tell you what. When I got home from the draft last night, this is how simple I am, man. I was just so happy that I didn't have to come into this office I'm sitting in right now and throw on some tape. I sat up till 2:30, 3 o'clock this morning on Netflix, just mindlessly looking for stuff to watch because I was just so happy that I didn't have to think about anything. So yeah, I'm gonna get away, man. I'm gonna go somewhere. I don't live that far from the Jersey Shore, man. I'm gonna get down there someday this week, and I told my wife I'm just gonna take a beach chair. And I'm going to take my phone, and that's in a pair of sunglasses, and I'm just going to park it right at the edge of the water and just don't even talk. Unless it's an emergency, don't call me.
That's great.
And I'm just going to sit there.
Well, what have you found on Netflix?
Oh, man, you know what? What's it called? Is it called The Night Watch? The Night?
Yeah, Night Watch.
Night Watch. That is the best series.
You like it?
Oh, my goodness. That's the best one. And I watch all the Formula One stuff, man, about the...
Yeah, F1.
Yeah, F1 is really, really good. I mean, I flip through that. See, Netflix, man, that's the worst invention ever, man, because I go down such a deep rabbit hole looking for stuff. I was up this morning until 3:30.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah. You deserve it.
Yes.
You did.
Grant, we
beach
appreciate
chair
and hang
yeah.
out.
Yeah. First one's on us, all right, Lewis?
Absolutely, bro. I appreciate you guys as always.
Thanks,
you.
Lou. We appreciate
All
it. Thanks. There's Louis Riddick all over the draft.
It's a lot of work they do for that presentation.
Oh my goodness! Well, all the work they do, and they've all been on with us, and they'll always pick up the phone for us. We appreciate Louis Riddick. Our draft coverage brought to you by Connie's Frozen Pizza.